So now, that's the lesser jihad. Turning to the greater jihad. Now here's something that shocked the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were coming from an expedition that was critical to the survival of Islam. It was in the summertime. It was hot. They were hungry. And they were coming back from that, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he welcomed them. He says, "Blessed are those who have performed the minor jihad." He referred to it as a minor jihad, and have yet to perform the major one. And here are the people who are panting and struggling. It was this waging, fighting for truth, in the summertime. And they come, and Rasulullah was greeting them and saying, well, you still have a greater jihad beyond this. And they were shocked. And they're saying, well, Rasulullah, what is the greater jihad? I mean, haven't we been through enough already? And Rasulullah replied, the jihad of the self. This is the greater jihad. This is the jihad that the media never focuses on. This is the greater struggle. So we find in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this is the verse that I began with, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيْرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيْرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change that which is within themselves. We find that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, throughout the saga, he was weeding and filtering, his companions, because he wanted this quality. He wanted, those change agents to be ones who have dominated over themselves. So, he would, instead of rallying the troops, giving them pep talks to motivate them, saying, we're going to win, we're going to be victorious. Rather, he said, we will all be annihilated. We will all be killed. We will all be massacred. And he said that time and time again. And people will start to filter out, until the night before, where, again, he says, you're discharged from all responsibility. If you thought that you're here because you have a sense of obligation and responsibility, you have no responsibility. In fact, I'm grateful, he says to them, I'm grateful for what you have already sacrificed. And if you feel that a sense of, embarrassment to leave me, then I'll turn off the light, and you can, leave in secret. We want to preserve your face. It's to save face, right? You have no obligation. And when the light was turned, there was no motion. There was everything, not a stir. And so the Imam turned back the light, and all of his companions were still there. And there was no more sifting after that. So he wanted the people who had, changed that which is within themselves, to control, their self, to struggle against their self before they struggle outwardly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. As for those who strive in us, we shall surely guide them in our ways. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in us. It's very subtle here, that it doesn't quite say for us, obviously for us, but he says in us. And what that requires is to, to see no eye. There is no eye. There's just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He will guide. And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تُتْرَكُوا وَلَمَّا يَعْلَمِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا مِنْكُمْ. Do you suppose that you'll be left off while Allah has not yet ascertained those of you who struggle? And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسَ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يَفْتَنُونَ. Do you suppose that that you will be left alone saying, I believe, just saying I believe, and you will not be tested? So, this is the greater struggle. It's the struggle within. It's the struggle to change oneself before changing the other. So, when one thinks of jihad, one thinks of warriors. So when you have the inner jihad, when you have the greater jihad, this is alluding to the spiritual warrior, where this warrior is one who slays his own ego. So and this is the person who aims to control the evil forces that's within, and to watch over the frontiers of his own soul. And also, this is the struggle for Islam and its true meaning, which is the struggle to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the struggle for qurba, which is the nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in this sense, we find that Imam Ali alayhi salam says that the bravest person, who is the brave person? And this is coming from the bravest person. The bravest person is he who conquers his own desires. That's the bravest person. And there was another incident where the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was passing and he saw a number of youths who had organized a little bit of a competition amongst themselves to, it was basically a weightlifting competition. They were lifting, they were seeing who can lift the biggest stones. So, they're bench pressing, and, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw that and he said, "Would you like me to be your judge?" And they said, "Of course, O Messenger of God." They wanted to prove themselves. And what did he say? He says that there's no need to lift the stone to see which of you is the strongest. I can say that the strongest person is he who in his desire for a sin is able to control that desire. Such a person is truly a brave warrior. So this is, speaking to us, where, there isn't anything wrong with, working out and building your physical strength. But don't think that, this is what bravery truly is. And this is, us in the state of youth, where, there is that desire, a greater desire for sin. And here is where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, well, the bravest of you is the one who can overcome that desire. So this is, the spiritual warrior. Now, who greater as a spiritual warrior than Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam? He is, the greatest of warriors, both on the battlefield as well as, the battlefield of his self. So there's actually a video clip. I don't know if the brothers and sisters can hear this. I forgot to ask for speakers. But let's see. Yeah. So see if you can hear this.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, brothers, sisters, what is the greatest threat facing Islam today? American aggression in the Middle East, Zionist occupation of Palestine. These are merely symptoms of a greater disease. The real threat is in our hearts. Instead of allowing Islam to transform us, some Muslims are trying to transform Islam to serve their political agenda. They are using the label Islam to kill, murder innocent people. Something that the Prophet would never have condoned, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Remember Surah 13, verse 11. Allahu la yughayru ma bi qawmin hatta yughayru ma bi anfusihim. God does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. How can we end the oppression of the Muslims by resorting to even worse behavior? If our spiritual and our moral condition worsens, how can we expect God to improve our economic and our political conditions? This is the fallacy of the self-styled jihadists who... I hope I haven't angered you, brother. Assalamu alaikum. This is the fallacy of the self-styled jihadists who murder innocent civilians.
How can you expect Muslims to be civilized when the Americans, the Israelis, the Russians kill thousands of Muslim civilians and dismiss it as collateral damage? The Holy Quran permits an eye for an eye. If the unbelievers kill our civilians, we have the right to do the same.
Allah permits retaliation only against the guilty party, not against innocents. Surah 53, verse 38 says, "No soul shall bear the burden of another."
The Holy Quran also says, "And kill them wherever you find them, and drive them out of the places where they drove you out. For persecution is worse than killing."
You forgot the first part of that verse, brother. Fight in God's cause against those who fight you, but do not commit aggression. God does not love aggressors. There are many who are seeking God, but instead end up following the devil.
What you said tonight
Troubled you?
Yes. It's very different from what I've been told.
There are many false teachers taking verses from the glorious Quran out of context, corrupting the teachings of the Holy Prophet
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Tell me, brother, what is the greatest jihad?
To fight the unbelievers in battle. No.
The Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that war against the unbelievers is the lesser jihad. The greatest jihad is to battle your own soul, to fight the evil within yourself.
So, who is a true holy warrior then?
The Prophet's cousin Ali was fighting an unbeliever in battle, and he gained the upper hand. Just as he was about to strike the death blow, the unbeliever spat at him. Ali threw down his sword, refused to kill him.
Why?
Ali said that when the man spat at him, he himself became angry, and he was no longer fighting for Allah, but to avenge his own pride. He knew that if he killed that unbeliever out of anger, rather than out of a desire for justice, he would be a murderer in the eyes of Allah on Judgment Day. That, my brother, is a true holy warrior.
So I thought that was a nice clip to play that kind of encompassed, you know, the overall message. So, you know, so now, you know, that's the lesser jihad, turning to the greater jihad. Now here's something that shocked the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were coming from an expedition that was critical to the survival struggle. So we find in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and you know, this is the verse that I began with, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيْرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيْرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change that which is the major one. And here are the people who are panting and struggling. It was this waging, fighting for truth, in the summertime. And they come, and Rasulullah was greeting them and saying, well, you still have a greater jihad beyond this. And they were shocked. And they're saying, what was of Islam? It was in the summertime. It was hot. They were hungry. And they were coming back from that. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he welcomed them. He says, blessed are those who have performed the minor jihad. He referred to it as a minor jihad, and have yet to perform. Rasulullah, what is the greater jihad? I mean, haven't we been through enough already? And Rasulullah replied, the jihad of the self. This is the greater jihad. This is the jihad that the media never focuses on. This is the greater